She sent a letter to her ex, but his brother replied, pretending to be him, and fell for her instead. She poured her heart into a letter to her ex, but the reply wasn't from him. It was from his brother, pretending to be the man she once loved. What started as a lie turned into something real. But the truth is coming, and it might destroy everything. Before we continue, if you enjoy touching and inspiring stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Now, let's get back to the story. It had been 462 days since Maya last heard from Caleb. She knew because she counted, at first with tears, then with numbness. And still, she hadn't deleted his number, or his photos, or that one hoodie he left behind, which somehow still smelled like the ocean, like him. She sat at her desk that Saturday night, the city buzzing quietly outside her apartment window. Her fingers trembled above the keyboard. The screen glowed with the half-written email. Every part of her knew she shouldn't send it. It was foolish, too late, too emotional. But Maya had reached that point where keeping it in hurt more than the embarrassment of reaching out. Dear Caleb, I don't know if you'll ever read this. Maybe I'm sending this more for me than for you. But there are things I never said. Things I wish I had. She poured her heart into it, not begging for him back, not blaming him, just laying bare the ache that had lived in her since he left. The nights she woke up missing the way his laugh echoed in small rooms, the way he held her wrist gently when she got anxious, the way he always knew when to say nothing at all. Maya hit send. Then she sat still. She expected silence, maybe a bounce back, maybe nothing, and that's what she told herself she wanted. But 3 days later, an email arrived from Caleb Carter. Subject: Hey, it's Maya. I wasn't expecting this. Honestly, I'm not sure I even deserve your words, but I read them, every line. And I felt something I thought I'd buried. I don't know what we are now, Maya, but I know I miss what we had. I'm sorry for the silence. Maybe we can talk, if you still want that. Her breath caught in her chest. She stared at the screen, blinking hard. Something about the tone was different, softer than she remembered, kinder. But it was his name, his email. It had to be him. And just like that, something inside Maya cracked open. They began writing back and forth. Emails turned to texts. And then, one night, she asked if they could talk, just hear each other's voices. I got a temporary number just in case she ever wanted to call, Jason would later admit. I didn't expect her to, but when she did, I couldn't hang up. Texts turned into late-night calls. He asked about her art again. She asked how his writing was going. The distance didn't vanish. It changed shape, shifted into something delicate, careful. Like they were both holding a bird that had once flown into a storm and barely survived. But every time she asked to meet, he gently dodged. I'm out of town, he'd say. Or, not ready yet, May. Let's not rush this. The third time, Maya let it go. She didn't want to push him. He was opening up again, and that was enough. Maybe people do change. Maybe time really can heal the things we thought were unfixable. But what Maya didn't know, what would soon turn her world upside down, was that the man she'd been writing to wasn't Caleb at all. It had started as a mistake. Jason Carter had opened the email on his brother's old laptop, one that Caleb left behind when he moved overseas and never came back to pick up. Jason had meant to wipe it clean before donating it, but the inbox was still logged in. And there it was. Subject: Hey, it's Maya. He hadn't planned to read it, but the name stopped him cold. Maya. He remembered her. Not just from Caleb's stories. He had met her once, briefly, at a party. She had this quiet gravity. The kind of person who didn't try to fill silence but made it feel full. Jason always thought she and Caleb were oddly matched. His brother, a restless dreamer. Maya, an anchor that never tried to pull. He read the letter. Every word. And something inside him twisted. Not pity. Not curiosity. It was something deeper. The way she wrote, raw, honest, unpolished. She wasn't asking for closure. She was offering a piece of her soul. And Caleb, well, he'd never read this. He never even checked that inbox anymore. Jason closed the laptop. He told himself to forget it. But 2 nights later, he opened it again. And he replied. He didn't sign it. Jason. Just hit reply and typed. Slowly, cautiously, trying to be gentle with something that didn't belong to him. But now, it had been weeks, and he was in too deep. Every message from her felt like sunlight hitting somewhere in him he didn't know was cold. He told himself he was helping her heal, that Caleb didn't deserve her anyway, that what they were doing, these letters, were harmless. But last night, Maya said something that left him staring at the screen. I think I'm falling for you again. Or maybe, for the first time. And he didn't reply. He couldn't. He stood in front of the mirror that morning, feeling like a coward wearing someone else's face. He never meant for this to go this far. And yet, he also couldn't let it go. That night, he finally decided. He would write back. He would tell her the truth. But before he could, his phone lit up with a message from her. Maya, I have something important to tell you. Can we meet, please? Jason stared at the message, heart thudding in his chest. He could feel the whole thing crashing down. One yes, and she would know everything. One lie, and he'd be lost in it forever. And he had less than an hour to decide. Jason sat frozen, his phone burning in his hand like it had just delivered a bomb. I have something important to tell you. Can we meet? Please? He read the message at least 10 times. Each reread made his heart pound harder. He stood up, sat down, stood again, walked in circles like a man trying to outrun his own guilt. He could ignore it. Say he was out of town, pretend he'd never seen it. But if he let this drag on, what then? Another lie. Another message signed with a name that wasn't his. Jason Carter had never been great with feelings. That was always Caleb's thing. The charm, the effortless confidence. Jason was the quiet one, the listener, the one in the background. But this wasn't just about him anymore. It was about Maya, and she deserved the truth. Maya arrived early, too early. She picked the coffee shop near the park, the one with the ivy on the brick walls and the soft jazz that always played just a little too loud. It had been her favorite place back when she and Caleb were still a we. She grabbed a table by the window, fingers wrapped tight around a warm mug she hadn't sipped. Her eyes scanned the street. Every shadow could be him. Every tall man with dark hair, every shape in the glass door. Her heart was racing. She wasn't sure why she said she had something important to tell him. She just needed to see him, to know if what they were rebuilding was real. Because lately the words in his messages felt different, more thoughtful, less rehearsed, as if someone else had taken over the same voice, but made it deeper, more honest. And it made her feel things she hadn't let herself feel in a long, long time. Then the door opened, and there he was. She stood up instinctively, but the moment she saw his face, really saw it, Her expression faltered. It was Caleb, but it wasn't. Jason stopped just inside the door. Their eyes locked. He saw the confusion hit her like a wave. It rolled across her face. First hesitation, then recognition, then disbelief. She didn't move. He approached slowly, feeling every step like it was made of glass. "Maya." His voice cracked a little. He cleared his throat. "Can I sit?" She nodded cautiously. "You're not Caleb." He exhaled. "No, I'm not." Silence wrapped around them. The cafe chatter faded into a hum behind the weight of that moment. "Then who?" she began, her voice shaking slightly. "Who have I been writing to all this time?" Jason sat across from her, hands clasped together, guilt sitting heavy on his shoulders. "My name's Jason. I'm Caleb's younger brother." Maya's breath caught. "You pretended to be him?" He nodded, slowly. "At first, I didn't mean to. I saw your message on his old laptop. He left it here when he moved. I was supposed to wipe it, give it away. I don't even know why I opened the inbox. I saw your name. And then I read the letter." Maya's jaw clenched. "You read something that wasn't yours." "I know," he said quickly, "and I hated myself for it. I wasn't trying to, it just pulled me in." She looked away, blinking fast. Jason leaned forward. "I swear, I wasn't playing a game. I didn't even plan to respond. But you poured your heart out in that email. And I knew my brother would never reply. I knew he didn't deserve to. He never even mentioned how badly he left things with you." Maya's voice was quiet now, tight. "So you thought what? That you'd just step into his place?" "No," Jason said. "I thought I'd write one message, just something to give you peace. But you replied. And you were so open and funny and real. It wasn't about pretending after that. It was about you." Maya's hands curled into fists on the table. "You should have told me the truth." "I was going to. That's why I came today. I wanted to tell you in person. But I was scared. Not because I didn't care, but because I do." Maya looked up sharply. Her eyes met his, and for a second, something flickered there. Confusion, maybe. Anger. But also something else. Betrayal hurts more when the person matters. "You lied to me, Jason." "I know, and I'll never stop being sorry for that." Another beat of silence passed. Then she stood up. "I need air." He stood too. "Maya." "No." She grabbed her coat. "I need space. You don't get to follow me." Jason didn't. He watched her walk out, the bell on the cafe door jingling softly behind her like the end of a song. She walked for over an hour, through the park, past the fountain where kids tossed coins, past the bookstore she and Caleb used to visit, the one with the dusty corners and hidden poetry. She wasn't crying. Not exactly. But she felt hollow, like the emotional ground beneath her had cracked and no one was there to catch her. She remembered every message, every late-night call, every word that had made her heart flutter again after months of silence. And now, they weren't Caleb's words. They were his brother's. Later that night, she sat on her couch in the dark. No music, no phone, until a soft ping echoed through the room. A new email. From Jason Carter. Subject, "I owe you everything." "Maya, I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but I needed you to know. What I said to you over these last few weeks, I meant every word. I never spoke for Caleb. I spoke for myself. And I didn't fall for you because of the letters. I fell for you because of how you saw me, even when you didn't know it was me. If you never want to see me again, I'll disappear. No more messages. No more pretending. But if there's even the smallest part of you that wants to know who I really am, I'll be at the park bench tomorrow. The one by the fountain. 4 p.m. I'll wait." Jason Maya stared at the screen. 100 emotions tangled in her chest. Anger, sadness, curiosity. She didn't owe him anything, but somehow, she wasn't sure if she could walk away either. Maya didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed with the light off and her thoughts louder than anything. She read Jason's message again and again, trying to make sense of everything, the words, the weight of them, and why they still made her heart ache in a way that was more complicated than just betrayal. Was it possible to fall for someone without ever knowing who they truly were? And worse, what did it say about her? If the person she'd opened up to, the one she thought was Caleb, had never been Caleb at all? But when the clock hit 3:30 p.m., Maya found herself already tying her shoes. She grabbed her jacket without really thinking. Her hands moved on their own, like her heart had made the decision hours ago and was only now letting her body catch up. The park was quiet. Late afternoon light spilled over the fountain like melted gold. The breeze stirred the leaves, and a mother nearby laughed as her toddler tried to catch a pigeon. Everything felt like it had slowed down, like the world was holding its breath. And there he was. Jason sat on the old wooden bench, leaning forward slightly, eyes on the ground. He looked smaller somehow, like someone bracing for the kind of pain he'd already decided he deserved. She approached slowly. He looked up. Their eyes met. "Hey," he said, standing up. "Hey," she replied, but didn't sit. There was a long pause before either of them spoke again. "I wasn't sure you'd come," he said. "I wasn't sure either." Jason nodded, rubbing his palms together nervously. "I meant what I said. I'll go if that's what you want." She looked at him, not through him, but at him. The man who had answered letters that weren't his, who had carried her grief without asking for it, who had lied, and yet had somehow felt more real in those messages than Caleb ever had. "Why didn't you just say something earlier?" she asked. "Because I liked who I was when I talked to you," Jason admitted. "I wasn't Caleb's little brother. I wasn't just some guy stuck in his shadow. I was someone you chose to talk to. And every day I told myself, just one more message, just one more call. And suddenly, I couldn't imagine not hearing from you." Maya crossed her arms, trying to hold herself together. "You took away my right to choose." "I know," he said quietly, "and I regret that more than anything. But I need you to believe me. What I felt was never a game, not even for a second." She sat down, finally, but she didn't look at him yet. "You know what's crazy?" He looked over. "What?" "I miss you." Her voice cracked slightly. "And that's what makes me feel like I'm losing my mind." Jason's breath caught. Maya kept her eyes on the fountain. "I don't know what was real anymore, but I know the person I was talking to helped me heal more than Caleb ever did. And now I'm standing here wondering if I was in love with the idea of being seen. Or with you." Jason sat slowly beside her. Not too close. Just enough to be near. "You don't have to know right now," he said gently. "I just wanted you to know the truth. Because if there's any chance you want to know me for real, I'll show up. Every time." They sat there in silence, letting the sounds of the park settle around them like a blanket. After a long pause, Maya finally turned her head and looked him in the eyes. "Then, tell me something," she said. "Something that isn't in any letter or text. Something real." Jason smiled, just barely. He thought for a moment. "I talk to my mom's old voicemail every birthday," he said quietly. "She passed 5 years ago. I call the number just to hear her voice, even though it doesn't work anymore. It's stupid, but it helps. Maya blinked, caught off guard. "That's not stupid," she whispered. "That's beautiful." Jason looked at her. "Your turn. Something real?" She hesitated, but then it came out. "I keep every sketch I've ever messed up. I can't throw them away. They're all in this giant drawer under my bed. Drawings with smeared lines, wrong faces, torn pages. I think part of me believes they deserve to be kept, even broken." Jason smiled, eyes soft. "Maybe that's why I keep holding on to this." She gave a tiny laugh, the kind that was part relief, part release, and for the first time in days, something inside her loosened. They spent the next hour walking through the park. No promises, no labels, just two people relearning how to speak without pretending. When they finally said goodbye, there was no kiss, no dramatic farewell, just a lingering look. And Jason's final words, "I'll wait as long as you need." Later that night, Maya sat on her bed with her sketch pad in her lap. She drew something new, not for perfection, not to be kept or framed, just to feel again, to breathe through the charcoal in her fingers. She drew two people on a park bench, not touching, but close. Close enough that the space between them felt like it was full of unsaid things. And then she smiled. For real. Because something had begun. Not where she expected. Not with who she thought. But maybe that's how all the best stories begin. The next day, Maya sent a single text. "Would you like to see where I keep the messed up sketches?" Jason read it 3 times, smiling like the sun had just come up again. "Only if I can bring coffee." Jason stood at Maya's front door, coffee in one hand, heart pounding in his chest like it was trying to break free. He wasn't sure what this was, a beginning, a maybe, or just a fragile step forward. But the fact that she'd invited him in, that she still wanted to talk, that meant everything. Maya opened the door with her usual quiet calm. She was wearing a loose sweater, her hair half up, half falling around her face like she didn't even try, and yet, somehow, looked more beautiful than he remembered. She didn't say anything at first, just took the coffee from his hand and turned to walk inside. "Come on," she said softly. "I'll show you." Her apartment was simple, filled with warm tones and the smell of something faintly citrusy. On one wall hung a few of her finished pieces, full of movement, shadows, and emotion. But she led him past those. They stopped at her bedroom door. "This," she said, pulling open a long wooden drawer under her bed, "is where I keep everything that didn't go the way I planned." Inside were dozens of sketches, stacked, rolled, and folded, portraits with smeared eyes, hands that looked more like claws, a street scene where the buildings leaned like they might fall over. "They're raw," Jason said honestly, crouching down to look closer. "But not in a bad way. They feel alive." Maya knelt beside him, brushing a few pages aside. "They're parts of me that didn't come out the way I imagined. But I don't throw them out, because even the broken things taught me something." Jason looked at her, really looked. "Is that how you feel about us?" he asked. "About what I did?" She was quiet for a moment. "I don't know yet," she admitted, "but I'm not ready to throw it away either." The words landed gently. Not a promise, but not the end. Jason gave a small nod. "Then I'll earn my place in this drawer. And maybe one day, on the wall." That made her laugh. Really laugh. And for the first time in a while, Jason felt the tension between them shift. They spent the afternoon talking. About everything except the letter. He told her about his job at the local bookstore, how he loved organizing the shelves by color when no one was looking. She told him how she used to draw strangers in cafes and sometimes imagined their whole lives just from their hands or the way they sat. At some point, she brought out her sketch pad, and without thinking too hard, she started to draw him. Jason tried to look natural, but she caught him sneaking glances at her with a half-smile on his face. "What?" she asked, eyes still on the page. "Nothing," he said, grinning. "I'm just thinking how weird it is that I'm sitting here like this, and you know more about the version of me that didn't exist than the one who's actually here." She paused, pencil hovering in the air. "Maybe I don't." Jason tilted his head. "What do you mean?" Maya finally looked up. "The things you wrote, they felt more honest than anything Caleb ever said. Even when I thought it was him, I knew something had changed. You weren't pretending to be him. Not really. You were just being you. And maybe that's why it felt so real." Jason's throat tightened. "I was scared you'd hate me forever." "I did," she said, smiling faintly. "For about a day and a half." He laughed, relieved. "Don't get comfortable," she added. "You're still on probation." He raised his hand in mock seriousness. "Noted." As the sun started dipping behind the buildings, Jason stood to leave. He looked at her one last time at the door. "I know it'll take time. I'm not rushing this, but I'm here, however you need me." Maya hesitated, then reached out and lightly touched his arm. "Thank you for coming clean." He nodded. And then, just before turning away, she said, "Next time, maybe I'll show you my favorite place in the city." Jason's face lit up. "Then I'll bring the better coffee." That night, Maya sat on her couch with her sketch pad open again. She flipped to the drawing she'd made earlier. Jason, sitting by the window in her living room. The lines were still rough, unfinished. But there was something in the expression she'd caught. A softness, a tension, a flicker of uncertainty. She ran her thumb over the paper and whispered to no one in particular, "Why does this already feel more honest than everything I had before?" She didn't have an answer, but maybe that's what made it worth exploring. Meanwhile, in a small, cluttered room over the bookstore, Jason sat at his desk, staring at a draft email. He had started typing something to Caleb. They hadn't spoken in nearly 6 months. But suddenly, something felt different. Maybe it was time for that truth to come out too. But just as he reached for the keyboard, the phone rang. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. "Jason Carter," a voice asked. "Yes?" "This is Jordan from the Sketchline Gallery. Someone submitted your name as a referral for our Artist Spotlight Night. We're reviewing portfolios. Are you the one doing illustrations under the name J? C?" Jason blinked. "Wait, what?" Jason stared at the phone, confused, heart hammering. He hadn't submitted anything, but he knew someone who had access to his sketches. And suddenly, Maya's message from earlier echoed in his head. "Maybe one day you'll be on the wall." Jason sat at the edge of his bed, phone still in his hand, mind racing. The Sketchline Gallery. A real gallery. A real opportunity. He hadn't told anyone about the little drawings he did in his spare time, quiet sketches of people in motion, in pain, in joy. They were personal, hidden, just like most of him had always been. And now someone had sent them out into the world. It had to be Maya. He smiled faintly, realizing how it felt to have someone believe in him. Not because of his last name, not because he was Caleb's brother, but because of who he was. The next morning, he walked into the bookstore with his head somewhere far above the rows of paperbacks. "Someone's floating today," his manager teased. Jason chuckled. "I just got some surprising news." He spent the rest of the shift half distracted, restocking shelves but barely noticing the titles. The world looked a little brighter, and his heart a little louder. By lunch, he couldn't hold it in anymore. He grabbed his phone and typed a message to Maya. "Was it you? The Sketchline Gallery? You did that?" A moment passed. Then her reply came. "Maybe I just wanted to see if the world would finally notice what I already see." His face lit up like a kid on Christmas morning. That night, Maya invited him to walk with her. No plans, no labels, just the two of them wandering through quiet city streets as lights blinked on in apartment windows above them. She showed him her favorite bookstore, one with mismatched furniture and a cat that slept on the poetry shelf. Then the rooftop of a parking garage where she used to go when life felt too loud. Jason watched her talk with ease, with light in her eyes. He knew now that her strength came from choosing to stay soft, even after everything. At one point, she paused. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you," she said, watching a plane blink across the sky. "What's that?" he asked. She hesitated. "About the gallery. I have a friend who curates for Sketchline. I showed her one of your sketches, just the one you gave me. She asked to see more." Jason stopped walking. "You showed someone my work?" "I did," she said gently, "because I believe in it, and I knew you wouldn't do it yourself." He exhaled, somewhere between nervous and grateful. "She liked it?" he asked. "She loved it," Maya said. "I sent her a few more pages from your notebook. She said you have something honest, unfiltered, and she wants to feature you in their local Spotlight series." Jason ran a hand through his hair. "I don't even know what to say." "Then don't," Maya said with a smile. "Just show up." He looked at her for a long moment. "You scare me sometimes." "Why?" "Because you believe in me more than I do." She touched his arm. "Maybe you'll catch up." Later that night, Jason sat at his desk and opened his drafts folder. The message was still there, dusty, unsent, like a wound that had scabbed over but never really healed. Subject: "I owe you the truth. Caleb, if you're reading this, then I finally got the guts to send it. I read the email Maya wrote you. I wasn't looking for it. It found me. And I should have told her the truth right away. But I didn't. I replied. I pretended to be you. And the worst part is, it didn't feel like pretending. It felt like the first time someone really saw me. She thought it was you, but it wasn't. It was me. And somehow, we built something real through that lie. I'm not proud of how it started, but I'm not ashamed of how I feel about her now. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just telling you because I can't keep hiding behind silence like you always did." Jason, his finger hovered over send. Then, finally, he clicked. It was gone. Whatever happened now, he wouldn't have to wonder anymore. The next day, Maya and Jason met at a small market near the Arts District. They wandered between food trucks and handmade jewelry stands, laughing about a vendor who tried to sell them emotionally supportive plants. They were finally starting to feel like something real, like themselves. Jason bought her a coffee, and they sat on a low stone wall near a fountain, letting the breeze cool the warm afternoon. But around noon, his phone lit up. Caleb Carter. New message. He froze. Maya noticed his face pale. "Is it him?" Jason nodded slowly. "Do you want to open it here?" she asked. He looked at her, then at the phone. "No, not here." They went back to her place. She made tea. Neither of them touched it. Jason sat on the couch, Maya beside him, holding her knees to her chest. But when he opened the inbox, there was nothing new. No message. No subject line. No reply. Just silence. That night, Jason walked Maya home. At the front door, they lingered in the quiet. He leaned in, not too fast, not to claim something, just to close the distance. And when their lips met, it wasn't desperate. It wasn't a victory. It was gentle, like a breath held too long, finally released. But just as Jason walked away, his phone buzzed again. Unknown. Number. I know what you did. No name, no context. Just 7 words that sent a chill straight down his spine. Jason stared at the message on his screen. Unknown. Number. I know what you did. 7 words. No name. No explanation. But they landed like a punch to the chest. The streetlights flickered above him as he stood frozen on the sidewalk. For a second, the whole world seemed to hold its breath. He read it again. I know what you did. The next morning, he tried to brush it off. Maybe a scam. Maybe someone fishing for a reaction. But the way his chest tightened told him this was different. And then, another message arrived. Unknown number. You didn't tell her everything. Jason sat back, heart pounding. The timing, the words. It wasn't random, it was personal. He replied quickly. Who is this? No answer, until an hour later, unknown number. Tell her the full truth, or I will. That's when something clicked. Jason stood up from his desk, the memory of his brother's face flashing across his mind. Caleb. He was the only other person who had access to that inbox, the only one who might have seen everything unfold, the one person who had every reason to be angry and disappointed. He paced for a few minutes, then called. Caleb answered on the 3rd ring. Hey! Jason's voice was calm, but tense. Is it you? Caleb didn't answer. You're the one sending the messages. Silence again. Then Caleb said, I wanted to see if you'd own it. Jason closed his eyes. I did. I told her everything. No, you didn't, Caleb replied, voice flat. You told her the big lie, but not the little ones. Not how you told her you'd never stopped loving her. That wasn't true when you said it. Jason's throat tightened. I know. I've been trying to forget that part. Caleb sighed. Look, I'm not proud of what I did. Ghosting her, leaving everything broken. But you stepped in and made her believe something that wasn't real. At least, not back then. I know, Jason said again. And that's why I'm going to fix it. Caleb's voice softened. Good. Because she deserves to hear it from you. Not from a shadow hiding behind a burner number. Jason almost smiled. You always did have a flair for the dramatic. I learned from the best, Caleb replied dryly. Then a pause. For what it's worth, I don't hate you. You might actually be what she needed all along. Jason hung up. The guilt still burned. But now it was clearer. He couldn't keep holding on to half-truths and hoping love would fix the rest. He had to face her. With everything. Maya was sketching when he arrived, charcoal on paper, her eyes locked in concentration. She looked up, surprised. Hey, what's wrong? I need to tell you something. The rest of it. He sat across from her, holding her gaze with steady honesty. You remember when I told you I read your email by accident, and then replied? She nodded slowly. I said I was honest after that, but I wasn't completely. Not at first. I told you, in one of those early messages, that I'd never stopped loving you. Maya's expression shifted, uncertain, tense. Jason continued. At the time, it wasn't true. I didn't know you. I was pretending to be Caleb, and I thought maybe those words would help you heal. So I said them, even though I hadn't earned them yet. He let out a shaky breath. But now, I know what love feels like. Because now, I feel it. For real. Maya looked down, processing. Why are you telling me this now? Jason reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He showed her the string of messages. She scrolled through them slowly. Who? Caleb, Jason said softly. He saw the letters too. He was the one texting me anonymously, pushing me to tell you the whole truth. Maya blinked in surprise. Caleb? He didn't want to hurt us. I think he just needed to know I wasn't building something with you on top of another lie. She stood and walked to the window, quiet for a long moment. Then, I wish I didn't care that this part hurt, but it does. I know, Jason whispered, but I had to say it. You deserve that much. She turned around. It's strange. I fell in love with someone I didn't know. Then I fell again with the man behind the mask. And now I'm realizing I still don't know everything. But I do know this. She walked closer, eyes steady. You told the truth when you didn't have to. That counts for something. Jason looked up. I don't want to be a lie in your life, he said. Then stop running from the truth, she replied gently. Start being it. Later that night, Maya sat at her desk. She picked up a drawing, one she had started weeks ago, but never finished. It was a woman looking in the mirror. She slowly added Jason's reflection. Her phone buzzed with a new message from him. No more pretending. Just me. Always. And for the first time, she replied without hesitation. That's all I ever wanted. 3 weeks had passed since Jason told Maya the full truth, and since Caleb stopped hiding behind anonymous messages. Their last call hadn't ended with a fight, but with something much rarer between brothers: understanding. Now, life was quieter, honest, and tonight, something new was beginning. Maya stood inside the sketchline gallery, her arms crossed loosely, staring at a white wall that somehow made her heart race, because on it, under a halo of warm, soft light, hung one of Jason's charcoal drawings, titled What We Found in the Silence. It was simple, raw, 2 people sitting apart but somehow tethered by the way the shadows between them curved and touched. It was, unmistakably, them. She remembered the night he first showed her his sketchbook, the way he laughed nervously, the way she saw something in those lines that he didn't yet believe was there. And now the world was seeing it too. Jason stood a few steps away, watching her watch his work. His hands were in his pockets, his chest full. He walked up beside her. You found it, he said softly. I didn't have to look far, she replied. They both stared at the piece in silence. No need to fill the moment with words. I still can't believe it's actually up there, Jason murmured. I can. He turned to her, studying her face. Why did you do it, Maya? Why did you send my work to the gallery behind my back? She met his eyes without flinching. Because I knew you never would, and it deserved to be seen. You deserved to be seen. He swallowed hard, emotion rising in his throat. You scare me sometimes. Why? Because you see me clearer than I ever saw myself. She smiled, then looked back at the drawing. Maybe that's what love is. Later that night, after the gallery closed and the streets were quiet, they sat together on Maya's apartment balcony, a blanket wrapped around them, 2 mugs of tea growing cold. Jason pulled out his phone, hesitating. There's one more thing, he said. I got a message today. From Caleb? She asked. He nodded. Yeah, this time not anonymous. He opened his inbox and handed her the phone. From Caleb Carter. Subject, you did the right thing. Jason, we've said what needed to be said, but I wanted you to have this, in writing. You made a mistake, but you owned it. You told her the truth. You didn't just say the words. You showed up. I didn't. And that's on me. I'm not bitter. I'm relieved. If she's smiling again, maybe that's what matters. Take care of her. The right way. Caleb Maya finished reading. Her expression was unreadable at first. Then, slowly, her thumb hovered over the screen, and she forwarded the message to herself. Jason raised an eyebrow. Saving it. I want to remember the moment when both of you stopped pretending. He chuckled softly. I think I finally understand something. What? He looked at her seriously. That sometimes the hardest truths bring the strongest connection. She leaned her head against his shoulder. And sometimes the wrong letter leads to the right love. A few weeks later, Jason's name was printed in the gallery program for a second exhibition. His signature, once scribbled in secret on pages he planned to throw away, now hung beside framed works under spotlights. Maya's newest collection, Letters That Weren't Meant to Be Read, opened that same month. Each piece was a visual story of vulnerability. Faceless figures with open envelopes, mirrors reflecting silhouettes that didn't match, hearts made of torn paper stitched together. At the very center of the gallery hung the only colored piece in the entire exhibit, a simple sketch of a park bench. Two people sitting close, not touching, but smiling at the same quiet sky. One evening, on their way home, Jason asked her, "If you could go back, would you change how it all started?" Maya paused. "No," she said. "Even the mistakes brought us here. And here is beautiful." Jason smiled. "So no more letters?" She looked at him playfully. "One more. Just one." Back home, she sat at her desk and wrote it by hand, folded it carefully, slipped it into his sketchbook, the place where so many secrets had lived. That night, he found it. Dear Jason, you were the wrong person, at the wrong time, with the right heart. And maybe love doesn't always start with the truth. Maybe it starts when someone is brave enough to make it true. M. On their wall at home, beside framed drawings and worn-out pencils, hangs the original letter Maya wrote to Caleb, the one that started it all. Next to it, Jason added a small hand-painted sign. From the wrong inbox came the right love. Sometimes love doesn't arrive the way we expect. It slips in through a mistake, a lie, or a letter never meant to be read. But what matters most is what we choose to do when the truth finally shows up. The end. Now it's your turn. Have you ever found love or healing in an unexpected place, even through a mistake? Share your story in the comments. You never know who it might inspire.